Oh, I just love that bouncy music. I don't hear enough of it. 3:07 is the time. Cail and Company live from the Beacon Building. It's the Ask Coach Carol segment of the radio program. This is, I got to take your picture today because your microphone thing there, the microphone sponge, whatever it's called, it pretty much matches your dress, right?
There you go.
And you got the pink on. It's like the pink and blue thing.
So I'm color coordinated with the microphone today.
But I do want to dispel one rumor, and that is that Coach Carol will not be a quarterback for the Patriots tonight because she is as injured, if not more so, than Jimmy Garoppolo.
I know. Since I was last here, I acquired a wonderful injury. And the Pats had called me.
Yeah, I'm sure they did, but they probably didn't know that you had sustained this.
I know, isn't it
wrist
crazy?
Injury, yeah.
But at least, I haven't been accused of deflating balls, so I haven't been suspended.
That's true. Well,
but poor Tom Brady. We talk about him a lot, don't we?
We do. But is that your throwing hand? Are you a righty or a lefty?
Well, this is what's interesting. So for the listeners, I sprained my wrist last week.
Your
totally
left wrist, yes.
Unexpected per usual when people get sprains. But I am a lefty.
Oh, you are? So
I
that
am
definitely
a lefty,
puts you up. There's
so
no
that
chance.
didn't
Yeah,
help.
yeah.
However, the good news is I write and eat with my left hand, but I do everything else righty. I do sports righty.
Oh.
So it's only half affected me.
I see. Wow.
But I'm glad it's not broken. I sprained the tendons, and they just need to be left alone to heal. But, yeah, so it's kind of a nice big bracelet.
It is. Big black bracelet, yes. It doesn't really go with the outfit, but,
It seems like every time I come in lately, there's something new, unexpected that we talk about, right?
There's always something, right?
Yeah, so
let's
knock on wood. Next time it's something positive.
Well, I know. But, you look good, and, you're in a good mood, and, so as
Life
you always
good.
are. Yeah. So,
life is good.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. So we had talked about me participating in Leadership Greater Manchester, which is a wonderful program through the Chamber of Commerce, and we did our orientation overnight last week for all of us to get to know each other, and accidentally sprained my wrist, but it's all good. We had such an amazing time.
You were telling me about some of it.
Terrific business people in the community. Yeah, we had lots of fun. So it's a great program.
Did John Clayton behave himself at all? At any time, did he behave himself?
Well, what happens at the Boy Scout camp stays at the Boy Scout camp. No, he was amazing. Everybody was just terrific and positive, and yeah, I love that good energy.
That's good.
It's contagious.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to know about your injury. I did see you on video doing like the trapeze. You were like one of the flying Walendas.
Yeah, we did Thursday. We did a low ropes course, different activities, and then Friday we did the high ropes course. And so I couldn't do a lot of the events because of my wrist, but I could do the flying squirrel. So you basically have a harness on, and there's a cable that you're hooked to by a rope, which is probably 4 stories in the air. And then the other end of the rope has 8 of your classmates pulling the rope as fast or as slow as you want to go flying up in the air. And so I told them to go for it because it was the only activity I could do. And, man, let me tell you, I was screaming like a little girl because it feels like you're flying 10 times faster than what it looks like.
Man, oh, man. I mean, better you than me. You described some of the other things, which sounded even more daring.
Yeah, it was amazing. Whoa. It's designed to get people out of their comfort zones.
I guess so.
Really push themselves.
Would have been out of my comfort zone, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it was fun. And, I was just so proud of my classmates. I just could not believe what they were accomplishing. It was amazing. So a shout out to Leadership Greater Manchester.
Outstanding. All right. So what else is happening? I know
what else?
Have a lot of engagements coming up.
Oh, I'm so excited. I want to talk a little bit about my breakfast conference. So my company, Health Design, is hosting a breakfast conference next month at La Belle Winery. Beautiful, beautiful facility. Tuesday, October 18th from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. The topic is the value of worksite wellness, turning employee health into profit. We're going to have breakfast, networking, valuable information, and tons of fun. And then
I would guess so at the winery, little early morning wine from 8:30 to 11.
I don't think we're going to be doing wine at 8:30 in the morning. There's going to be coffee and continental breakfast and speakers, and there's going to be a DJ there. So Energy
right.
Entertainment will be there.
All right, very good.
DJ Greg will be playing music and emceeing the event for me. So, people can come. It's mostly like business to business, HR managers, upper management, business owners who want to learn how to reduce health-related costs, improve productivity, motivate their employees, and increase their profits. So, once again, it's Tuesday, October 18th, 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. You can register now. The link is live on LaBelle Winery's website, which is www.labellewinerynh.com. Go to their events page, find October 18th, and you can register through that link. They're located at 345 Route 101 in Amherst, but it's literally just over the Bedford line.
Right, yeah.
So
Beautiful
it's
spot.
not that far
Beautiful
away.
spot, yeah.
LaBelle Winery is the premier sponsor for the event, and our gold sponsors are Energy Entertainment and New Hampshire Business Review. So sign up, come visit us, and today I'm going to be giving away a complimentary pass to the breakfast conference. So if people want to call in today with either a question or a comment, just join us in the conversation today. Call in at 866-823-1077, and the first person who calls today can get a complimentary pass to the breakfast conference next month at LaBelle Winery.
Outstanding. All right, very good. All right, I think we have kept our guest waiting long enough.
Yes. Time to introduce this lovely lady who's joining us today. I'm pleased to have Dr. Madalyn Otto in the studio today. She's a naturopathic doctor. She's located in Concord, New Hampshire, and we're going to be talking about prevention and holistic health. So welcome. How are you?
Thank you, and it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. So give us a little bit about your background, and you're fairly new to New Hampshire.
I am. I'm new to New England.
Yeah, give us some history on how you got here and what you offer.
I'm a native Buffalonian, so I'm new to the Patriots. I'm a Bills fan by birth, so I'm trying to. I don't know if I can actually technically transition without being banished from Buffalo, but that is my hometown, and I spent the first part of my career in Arizona. So I am brand new to New England and back to the Northeast relatively recently. So it's been quite the welcome since I've been here in New Hampshire. You guys are a lovely bunch.
Terrific. Well, we're glad to have you, even if you're not a huge Patriots fan yet.
Thank goodness.
Oh, you will be soon.
That's right. It's inevitable.
If you hang around long enough.
I'm a naturopathic doctor, and my job as an ND is to find natural solutions for chronic health problems. A lot of the problems that people deal with today in our country, things like fatigue and thyroid problems and weight gain, diabetes, heart disease, digestive disorders, all of these things are conditions that develop slowly over time, and they can be really successfully treated naturally using natural medicines and lifestyle medicine. And so that's my passion, and that's what I work with my patients to achieve health.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the common things that the patients come in for where you're giving them treatment that's different from a traditional MD?
It's actually across the board, and part of that is because we look at the type of condition that you have or the symptoms that you have in a little bit more global way. We're kind of looking at the entire body and all the different body systems at the same time, which is not necessarily done always conventionally. Another reason for that is that our approach is about giving the body resources to stimulate self-healing. So we focus a lot on nutrition and nutrients and things like that. So there's actually a lot of differences in terms of the treatment approach between what we do and what MDs do, but there's of course some overlap as well. Some of the common things that we see, the things that I mentioned really, the heart disease, diabetes, a lot of intestinal disorders, which can, as it would make sense, are diet related. What goes into your mouth is obviously going to have a lot of impact on your digestion, but also things like fatigue and thyroid problems. This is hormone imbalances in general are a very big issue in our chronic problem that people have that's really common and I think can be best treated when you have a natural approach and when you're looking at the whole picture, because our body, everything in our body works together. We're not, just an arm and a leg and a brain that are separated. Everything is working together, and there's a pretty big domino effect that can occur that we want to address.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you wanted, we were talking earlier about plant-based foods and how you recommend those for some of the treatments that you do. And like you were saying, everything works together. And, you know, your body's not just looking for you to put anything in it as far as, you know, your body's not looking for you to just fill your belly.
Right,
you know, it's looking for certain things to use as tools to keep us healthy. And the body is amazing at healing itself. So can you give us some more information on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the way that you worded that, giving your body the resources that it needs, but at the same time, you know, our diets are supposed to not only be robust in their nutrient content, but they're also supposed to make our tummies happy, and we're supposed to feel full, and we're supposed to feel satiated and happy with what we're eating. And a plant-based diet can really achieve that. And the main reason for that is the micronutrient density. And I think a lot of diets, you know, diets can be very trendy. You've heard a lot about maybe a paleo diet or a Mediterranean diet or you know, an adrenal diet and these kinds of things. And really, and the question we should all be asking is, why are all these different diets, what makes them effective for people when they're effective? And that common thread there is the micronutrient density. It's having a lot of plant foods in the diet, having a lot of vegetables and a lot of fresh fruits and whole foods rather than processed and refined foods. That's really the common thread.
Mm-hmm. And how do you get your patients to embrace change if they're not, you know, if they're eating a lot of prepackaged foods?
Well, I am a big believer in understanding where a person is and in the context of what we're trying to treat. So there are certainly cases where, you know, maybe I don't have the same luxury of timeline that I would in another case. You know, there's might be a case of cardiovascular disease that's quite advanced where we don't maybe have the luxury of taking our time. But in most cases, we really do. It's not a all or nothing kind of approach. When we are making positive changes in our diet, we're making impact on our bodies, and we're having a lot of positive impact on our bodies, even if it's one thing at a time. So I create a map with my patients and just come up with, okay, these are some different ways that we'd like to intervene, that we can add these positive foods into our diet and maybe take out things that are aggravating the system. But we create that map and we make that plan and that timeline based on the patient, what the patient can do, and we work together along the way. It's really a team effort, and that's where we have the most success.
Mm-hmm. And it's not about waking up tomorrow and eating perfectly.
It's not at all. Not at all like that.
And I like to tell people to introduce new healthy foods slowly and then just crowd out the unhealthy foods, because you'll automatically do that and without feeling so deprived.
Absolutely. I use myself as an example. When I transitioned into eating a healthier diet, it was a slow process, and it almost became kind of effortless in a sense, because you're making changes one thing at a time over, you know, you try one new thing a week or one thing every 2 weeks or even one thing a month, and before you know it, a year later, your lifestyle, your diet is completely different than it was before.
Mm-hmm. And you know what I found is your body starts to crave the healthier foods, and a lot of people find that hard to believe because it's so easy for us to crave sugar and crave salt.
Yep.
But the more you eat healthy foods, the more your body will actually start to crave those, and the less healthy foods, they start not tasting so good.
Absolutely. Taste buds have a life. All of our cells turn over at different rates in our bodies, and our taste buds are not excluded from that. So within a few weeks of eating a different type of diet, or from eliminating sugar, for example, that's probably the biggest one, your taste buds are different. And when you eat the same foods that you were eating before that were extremely sugary and you might not even have noticed, now all of a sudden those things are too sweet. It actually doesn't even taste as good to you as the foods that you now prefer, which are healthier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the sugar as it relates to cardiovascular disease? Because I know there's cardiologists now who are saying they think that the sugar is a bigger problem than the fat, which we've been taught over the years, you know, fat's bad, fat's bad. Well, our body needs the healthy fat,
right,
and to not have so much of the unhealthy fat. But now they're saying we really need to be looking at the sugar.
Right. You know, I think the first thing I want to say is that what we learn in general over time, and as the medical opinions evolve over time, is that there's usually not one bad guy and a bunch of good guys, or there's not a lot of black and white. There's actually quite a bit of gray. There's something to be said for the concept of moderation, although I don't like to say moderation because that's pretty subjective, and what your definition of moderation is could be maybe not so healthy. But in general, yeah, and there's actually an interesting tumultuous political history behind that, and the research that was supporting the research that suggested that sugar was a problem decades ago, and how that maybe wasn't publicized, whereas the research that showed that fat was a problem was overemphasized, and there was not a balance being struck there, and that had to do with the powers that be and who was controlling that research coming out. But absolutely, sugar is that evidence is emerging and is quite compelling, that you're seeing a lot of issues with the lining of the blood vessels, a lot of damage being done to the blood vessels, and a lot of inflammation that's being stirred up by the consumption of sugar. Mm-hmm. So our minds are being completely pulled off of fat, or at least not to the same degree, and we're really starting to hone in on sugar and see that as being a primary culprit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I keep hearing is the inflammation, is that the sugar causes so much inflammation that's a big part of the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge part of the problem.
And then it's also being blamed for dementia.
Yes.
They're now looking at more links with sugar and dementia as opposed to just assuming that dementia is always genetic.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a couple of different lifestyle things that are coming up, or not just lifestyle, but there's a couple of different functional understandings behind dementia that have been sort of coming out in the mainstream media recently. And one of them does have to do with almost like a type 3 diabetes, I think is what the coin term was, where basically there's an insulin resistance that's happening on the neurological level or in the brain. There's also some talk about detox and your brain's ability to eliminate waste, and that being not sleeping enough, for example, impairs your brain's ability to eliminate waste, and that can be contributing to dementia as well. So there's a lot of different factors that are underlying some of these conditions.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you bring up sleep and all these different connections, because it's everything combined. So the good news is if people start making some small changes in each area, because it's not just about diet, just about exercise. Mm-hmm. When people want to assign those percentages, how much is diet, how much is exercise, it's so much more than that. And if people just make small changes in each area, the body's very quick to heal and thank you for your efforts. So I like the way that you make those connections.
Yep, there's always a bunch of factors on the table, and for any particular person, you might have this condition or a combination of health problems, and your neighbor might have the same ones, but the reasons why your body was susceptible to developing those is different. Maybe this person had only slept 4 or 5 hours a night for the last 20 years, and this other person, it's their diet that's really the culprit. There's different reasons why our bodies start to not function so well, and so we need to tailor our treatment to that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what affects one person might not affect another one, or to a different degree. Mm-hmm. So, interesting. So, what other topics do people come to talk to you about as far as looking at their whole health? What changes do they want to make that are outside the traditional?
That are outside the traditional? Well, diet and exercise is certainly a big part of it, but I think what oftentimes gets ignored is, and this is by both patients don't necessarily consider this, but also doctors oftentimes forget about this part, and that's stress management. That's the stress that most of us are inundated with day in and day out. When you think about, in history, our major stress was, okay, you get chased by a lion, and then either the lion catches you and, well, you're not stressed anymore, or you get away from the lion and you're, hiding in a tree or whatnot, and you recover from that stress. But now we're dealing with a completely different picture. You're waking up,
chronic stress.
You're in traffic jams. You're, having to deal with financial stress and what you're seeing on the news and what you're dealing with at work, and you're coming home and maybe you have relationship or interpersonal conflict, and then having trouble sleeping, and then having a chronic sleep debt. So we're really overwhelmed with stress at this point, and that takes a toll on absolutely everything. And when that part is not considered, well, we don't get to optimal unless we consider that. And there's a lot of common conditions like weight loss, like hormone imbalances for men and for women, where this is a really big obstacle to cure, basically.
Mm-hmm. Now, how often do you have people come in who say, I'm totally stressed out and now I'm having these symptoms, versus the people who come in with the symptoms and you're the one who tells them, I think it all comes back to stress?
And that's a great question. It's and I don't know if this is surprising to people, but it's very often the latter. We typically, you've been inundated for so long that you don't realize the correlation, and especially when these, the sort of your body tapping out and burning out and not working so well, that happened over time, and that stress has been going on a long time. At the beginning, maybe your body could cope with it all right. Mm-hmm. There's a breaking point where your body says, sorry, I just don't have the material anymore. I don't have the resources to keep going at this level. And there's a lot of biochemical changes that happen downstream from that, and a lot of imbalances that can occur with hormones and whatnot.
So what are some of the symptoms that you see, and what advice do you give them if you think that the root of the problem is stress?
So if the root of the problem is stress, so people manifest stress in different ways, and it really can be very diverse in those symptoms. Sometimes it can be joint pain, it could be digestive disturbance, it could be chronic reflux, or it could be abdominal pain. But more often than not, we're looking at something in the realm of mood changes, energy levels, and weight problems. So somebody who is noticing that they're more agitated, or they're more snippy with their partners, or they're just on edge all the time, and that's a person who, that's a really big red flag for me, that your body is starting to give you some signs that you need to support your body a little bit differently.
Which is common sense, because if you're stressed out all the time, you're not going to be a happy camper.
Right.
You're going to end up being more short-tempered.
Well, your threshold lowers because you now have a lot less your body has a lot less to be able to respond to. So it's perceiving things in its environment that normally were not that stressful. Well, now those things are considered stresses because you have so much less to be able to fight with. Mm-hmm. And the next kind of level from that is people who are just flatlined. They're actually having a hard time mounting any response at all. They become very exhausted, very depleted, not really being able to they're just kind of indifferent almost.
Yeah, people don't want to participate in activities they used to.
Mm-hmm. That's another level of seeing this stress manifest. And then certainly mood disorders, whether it's depressed mood, but a lot of times it's anxiety. Some people don't even notice it in their minds. We think of anxiety as being in our heads, but a lot of times, people feel it in their chest, or they feel it in their stomach, or they just notice that, wow, when I lay down at night, I'm unable to fall asleep. It's taking me hours, and I have to take something to help.
Or they start blaming external things.
Yes.
It's like it's always the traffic.
Right.
Or it's, the spouse is irritating me. They keep doing this, whatever. And they don't realize that the common denominator is them, and they're just not happy anymore because the stress is just taking over.
Yep, the triggers are becoming more numerous and more ubiquitous. And then, of course, weight gain. People think of, when a person's body is under a lot of stress, they're going to lose weight, and that's just not the case. We see a lot of weight gain, or the inability to lose weight. You could be doing all the right things, eating properly, exercising abundantly, and yet why is my weight not moving? Especially for women, we see this because women are a bit more susceptible to these hormone changes, but stress can be a huge underlying factor. So, the ways to address that are multifold, of course. One of them would be to literally reduce the stress in your life. If it's the commute to work that's so stressful, can we change your location so that you're not commuting as much? Is it in a toxic relationship that we need to consider getting out of? Then if once we've made those changes, or maybe some of those aren't possible, well, then let's focus on ways that we can sort of recalibrate, doing mindfulness meditation, doing breathing exercises, total body relaxations, yoga, these things that naturally calm the nervous system and help you, bring your body back into a parasympathetic state or a relaxed state. And then certainly using, from my perspective in the office, using nutrients that help calibrate and modulate those stress hormone output can be very helpful.
And people do need to take responsibility for their health and reducing their stress because, I tell people the world's not going to slow down for you. there's a lot of stress out there, and we keep taking on too much, and we're the ones who have to put a stop to it and make sure that our lifestyles aren't just too crazy, whether it's saying no to people or changing our routine, whatever we need to do to reduce the stress.
Yep, I think it's paramount. And, you were talking about the percentages earlier of diet to exercise ratio. And while there are a lot of different factors in there, it's actually a gym owner, I think, that I'm sure he didn't coin this, but I remember it from him. He said something like, it's 80% diet, 20% exercise, and it's 100% attitude. And I like that part, that on top of, there's a lot of different factors, your sleep, your environment, the pollution, the types of foods that you're eating, all these things are important, but your attitude and your reaction to your environment, that's kind of covers everything. You can't even parse that up into a piece on the plate. It's its own thing, and it makes the biggest deal. If you talk to individuals who are 100 years old or over 100, and you interview those people, by and large, their biggest advice is going to be around this topic. Is going to be about
be happy,
being happy,
have a good attitude,
loving abundantly,
and where it's all connected. If you have a better attitude, you're going to be more likely to feel better about yourself. You're going to be more likely to want to take care of yourself. You're going to be more likely to exercise. You're going to have more of a can-do attitude as far as preparing a healthy meal. You're going to want to go socialize more. So the positive feeds to the positive, and the negative feeds to the negative.
Very good. I've learned a lot in this 20 minutes, I haven't been taking a nap or anything over here.
Ken's
I've been
here.
thinking about all these things I could be doing, and probably am not doing very much of any of them, but should be. But we have a great show. Dr. Madalyn Otto is with us, and Coach Cail Phillips. 39 is the time. If you don't have this music on a continuous loop by now, you're really missing out.
Yeah, it makes you
really
boogie.
Missing out. It does. 1-866-823-1077 is our number. Coach Cail Phillips is here, author of 52 Simple Ways to Health, and the award-winning 52 Simple Ways to Health. How many awards now? They just
2.
keep
The book
on
has
coming.
2 awards.
All right.
Yeah, an International Book Award and Best USA Book Award.
There you go.
So yeah, pretty exciting.
Very impressive.
Well,
very
I'm glad it's
impressive.
reaching people and making a difference in their lives. And so while we're on that topic, if people want to go to my website, it's askcoachcarol.com, and you can check out the blog posts and get some easy information on how to make your life healthier and happier, or listen to some of the podcasts. So you don't even have to read. You can just press the play button, and within 2 to 3 minutes, you can have a new concept to work on, and it'll improve your health for the better.
There you go. And Dr. Madalyn Otto is here giving some great advice. I have to ask you, though, Dr. Otto, was there ever a time when you didn't have a good diet?
Yes.
Oh, there was?
Yes, there definitely was.
Oh.
Of course, I didn't know it at the time.
Well, yeah.
But
so,
yeah.
So how did you turn things around?
It's funny. My diet actually improved when I started med school, because I didn't have any money, because I was in med school and I was living off that wage, and I thought, all right, I need to eat as healthy as possible without spending the little money that I have. So that actually caused my diet to turn around, because all these foods that were in my diet that were not very nutritious, well, I couldn't afford to eat those anymore, right? Because my mindset had shifted to, all right, I want to get the most amount of nutrients for the least amount of money. And so now I started eating a lot more vegetables, a lot more whole foods, and I was cutting out all of the refined things and the sugar foods, and that because of my budget.
Yeah.
And not for health purposes at all. And it started there, and it just evolved, and I felt so much better. I noticed so many improvements. And then as I went through med school and residency and started practicing, the research, the literature really started backing up this approach. And who knew? I invented a concept that was.
And I'm so glad you said that, because so many people say, I can't eat healthy because I can't afford to eat healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what
Big
I find is,
misconception.
if people really start to eat healthier, they'll come back to me and say, it really isn't costing me any more money, because when you're adding in the healthy foods, most of the time you're not buying some of the prepackaged food, which really, yes, you've got the fast food with the dollar menu, but when you're shopping week to week,
right,
you are going to consume about the same amount. And so people come back to me all the time and say, you know what? I was surprised it really wasn't more expensive.
Yep. Food that is, when we think of healthy as being, well, I'm going to get the organic crackers, or I'm going to get the dairy-free ice cream, or I'm going to get the gluten-free, pancake mix, that's where things start to get really pricey. But when you're actually talking about a whole foods diet, well, the price, it's actually cheaper to eat healthy.
Right. And if there is something that's organic that's important to you, you pay now or you pay later.
Mm-hmm. Also,
so,
very good point. Yeah.
There might be a few things where, instead of
having a stent placed and a bypass later, that's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of
right.
dollars.
And down the road, people aren't going to have control. If they have health problems, their choices are very limited, and they're not going to have a choice. So pay now or pay later.
And I want to make a point on that too, because I just made a joke about the stent placement and the bypass, which people, you don't necessarily think of that. The argument that I hear from people is, well, if I eat healthy, then I'm going to be sad because I'm not eating these foods that I like, and then all I'm doing is maybe I'm just going to die a little bit later than a little bit earlier, and that's a common thing that I hear. When the truth is that when your body is being taxed and your body's being burdened and your body's starting to feel the effects of not getting the resources, the nutrition that it needs, it's not gone. It's a slow breakdown. You start to feel bad slowly. Your joints start to hurt. You're fatigued. You don't have quality of life enjoying time with your kids or your grandkids, or being able to be out in the outdoors and do the activities, play golf and things like that you enjoy to do. It's a much slower process, and all of those things can be helped by living a healthier lifestyle. So there's actually a lot of immediate gratification that you get from making these changes, not just 20 years from now.
Right. And the energy level is so important.
Yeah,
that's huge.
So if I were to ask you, Dr. Otto, as I'm about to, what are two things I could immediately eliminate that would make me healthier? Two things that I should totally eliminate from my diet.
You know what I'd rather answer?
Okay.
I'd rather tell you two things to aim for, to put into your diet, rather than two things to eliminate.
All right. Fair enough.
The one thing that I would say is to give more attention to fiber. Americans are grossly deficient in fiber. And it's something that people don't even pay attention to in general on nutrition labels, and it's one of the most important things. It's actually, when I look at diet journals with my patients, that's the one number that actually means something to me, because you can't look at calories and really be able to tell what a person's eating. You can't look at number of grams of fat and really know what they're eating. But if I look at their number of grams of fiber a day, I can tell a lot about their diet. So if you aim for 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day, I promise you, if you achieve that, your diet has changed.
And especially if it comes from whole natural foods.
And that's primarily where you're going to get
right.
fiber.
Because a lot of prepackaged foods, they want to say so many grams of fiber. But when you're adding it in a unnatural way, it's obviously not going to be as beneficial as if you're getting it from natural.
Absolutely, and you're going to get a lot more content, much higher fiber content, much more quickly by eating those whole foods, by eating foods that came from the ground, getting your beans and legumes in rather than always reaching for animal protein, by having fresh fruits, berries, and apples that have really naturally high fiber content rather than snacky foods.
And it's so easy to Google to find out what whole foods have.
Yes.
Fiber.
Yeah, it's a very easy list to Google.
There's a whole chapter in my book on fiber because it is that important.
Because it's that important.
So can you share with our listeners why fiber is important?
There's probably an endless list of reasons why your fiber intake needs to be higher, and there's a lot of evidence to support this in the research and clinically. But some of the key points are, first of all, regulating your intestinal transit time. So from a naturopathic perspective, but really this is picking up a lot of steam in even in integrative medicine and with functional medicine, is that health starts in the gut. So if your gut is impaired, you're going to have a lot of health problems in any system. And one of the main components of your gut is your microbiome. And you might have been hearing a lot about this on the news. If you listen to NPR or any of the radio stations, they oftentimes have health segments about, new discoveries, talking about the organisms that live in your gut. Well, our bodies naturally have a way of regulating who's growing where and in what number. And fiber has a lot to do with that. Fiber regulates the pH of your intestines, which then in turn regulates who gets to grow and in what quantities they get to grow, how waste is eliminated, how we recycle or don't recycle certain things in our digestive tracts. For example, detox is greatly enhanced by having high fiber because you don't reabsorb waste materials from your intestines when things are moving through efficiently.
Right, and it's a natural 24-hour cleanse.
Natural 24-hour
Instead of
cleanse.
all these, hyped up cleanses
Yes.
that, people do once in a great while. We should be paying attention to this every single day.
Yep. And it's also has a major impact on reducing your risk for colon cancer and other cancers as well, but specifically colon cancer because of the location.
Yeah. So I usually tell people 2 important things to remember is fiber is important to keep things moving.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps you feel full longer so that you're not binge eating every 2 hours and grabbing
blood
unhealthy
sugar,
food.
Makes sure that you're not spiking your blood sugar. So if you have blood sugar issues, diabetes or prediabetes, it's fantastic for that. Or if you're hypoglycemic, if you tend to get a little shaky before meals, having fiber will help to regulate that blood sugar. And like I said, keeping your tummy feeling full. Mm-hmm. That's important. Mood-wise, you want to enjoy what you're eating and you want to feel good from it and not get that what we call hangry, I guess. Yes, fiber is definitely going to stabilize that.
So,
I'm guessing opening a can of baked beans is not the answer, though.
Well, the beans part is great.
Yes.
The brown sugar and the bacon, not
Yeah,
so much.
right, absolutely. But yeah, and just finding things that you like.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean you have to eat a ton of it.
Right.
Just a little bit here and there, just to make sure you're
Add
getting
it in
enough.
slowly, especially when fiber. And actually, that's with fiber specifically, that's a good point because if somebody goes from having a diet that's really low in fiber and then they eat a ton of it, they're actually probably going to have quite a bit of abdominal pain and bloating and gas. Not because
then they're going to stop eating it,
and then they're going to think it's bad for me and I need to stop eating it. When in truth, their body's just not used to producing those enzymes to break down that fiber. So it just means you got to wean yourself up.
Right. So how can listeners get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
I practice at Whole Health Concord, which is downtown Concord on 91 North State Street. Our phone number is 369-4626, and you can read all about us and all about what we do at naturalmedicinenh.com, and you can make inquiries there as well and reach out to us.
Terrific.
Outstanding. Heading down the home stretch. Ask Coach Carol for this Thursday afternoon. 3:54 is the time. Coach Carol here along with Dr. Madalyn Otto. It's been a great hour. It's just gone much too fast. A lot of good information.
Yeah, it always flies by. It's just
It does.
so much to talk about when it comes to health and wellness. And wanted to invite the listeners to go to LaBelle Winery, New Hampshire, LaBelleWineryNH.com. If you want to come to the breakfast conference next month, it's October 18th. It's a Tuesday morning, 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. We're going to have a lot of fun, networking and listening to some music. And want to thank Dr. Madalyn Otto for being on the show today. Such terrific information.
We will have to have
Just
her
wonderful.
back.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll have her back. It'll be part 2 because we have a lot more to cover.
Absolutely. I've got to get healthier. I do. Although I feel good, but
You look great.
Well, thank you.
You look great.
Thank you. Oh, you had a quote.
I did. So this quote is actually related to business, but I really like to relate it to health. It's from Jim Cook of Sam Adams, author of Quench Your Own Thirst. And the quote says, "Business ideas are like radio signals. They're out there, and in fact, they surround us. The trick is to turn your receiver on so you can tune in.